Welcome to me tier ranking every single book I read in 2025. So I will admit this video is a little bit late. It has fully been a full month since 2026 started. But I've been really wanting to make this video, and there has not been time for it. And now there is. So we're just gonna do it today, and we'll see what happens. One of my 2026 goals is to have a booktube channel and post 10 videos this year. So hopefully I am able to do that. Clearly I'm a month late, but I've done other things on my list, so not falling too behind, but I'm excited to get into this. Want to make this clear. I am a full-time student and I work um about 15 to 20 hours a week. I worked full time over the summer. I'm not like this reading god that can breeze through 100 books a year. So, this is a realistic student who likes to read, but is a student first. Um, Books I read in 2025. I'm going to count how many books I read. One second. I read 22 books in 2026. I am not including rereads because I did reread a few books, and I'm not counting DNFs because I did DNF a few books. Um, Unless I forgot something, this is the full list of books I read. And I just want to go over which ones were good, which ones were bad, which ones are a skip, which ones are a must read, so that the people can know because I have opinions on things. First things first, I'm going to go over the tiers that I will rank these books in. The first bottom tier is actually this made me mad. This is for books that are literally 1 star, maybe even less than 1 star. Books that make me question why someone might actually bother reading it. And usually when a book is this bad, I just DNF it and I don't finish the book because it makes me so angry. But there actually is something on this list that I finished, and after I finished it, I was like, okay, like I think that was fine. And then I sat on it for like an hour, and every single day since then, I've just been mad that I read this book, which I'll get into later. But the next tier is not for me, but for someone. This is like 2 to like 3 star of like I finished the book and it wasn't my favorite. I didn't really like it that much, but I'm sure someone else could enjoy it, or even like it was fine, but I definitely wouldn't reread and I probably wouldn't recommend this book. 3 is enjoyed. This is like your average 3 star. I would even go so far as to say like 3 to 4 star, as in it was a good book, and I might even recommend it to some people. And I'm not mad that I read it at all. And then the next tier is, well, yes. These are for like high 4 stars. Books that I really enjoyed reading, like front to back, would definitely recommend. I really like these books, and I'm really happy that I read them. And then the last tier is I'll never shut the fuck about this book. I'll never shut the fuck up about this book until the day I die. Books that are such top tier 5 stars that I literally will never shut up about them. If you know me in real life, I've probably talked about this book before. If anyone asks me for book recs, this is certainly like number one on the list, especially because they're such recent reads. Um, and they just made me really happy. So let's get into it. So the first, I'll say, 2 books that I read in 2025 are None Shall Sleep and Some Shall Break by Ellie Marney, which are the first 2 books in a trilogy, I believe. And what this series is about is like if you've ever read The Naturals, or if you've ever watched Criminal Minds, it's 2 teenagers who in like the 1980s 90s are like recruited by the FBI to help consult on like cold cases about serial killers, and lo and behold they become people who are helping work on an active serial killer case from another teenager, which is why their insights are so important. And I think this book was pitched to me as like those vibes, like Naturals, Criminal Minds, which are book series that I loved as a kid, or like TV show that I loved when I was like younger. So it's definitely like right up my alley. I think I expected the book to be a little bit more like fun. Not that mystery or thrillers about serial killers are ever like fun, but I guess maybe a little bit more lighthearted. But this book is definitely not the same vibes as like the Natural series. It's certainly a lot more like grim. I would definitely recommend it for people who are fans of those two things. I think it could be something that you enjoy, but like it's not the best mystery or thriller that I've ever read before. Um, Maybe it's just not to my personal taste. I don't remember which one I thought was better, but clearly I felt compelled to pick up the second book. I finished them within like a few days of each other. But I did not end up reading the third book. I think I just got a little bit bored. So for me, this is just going to go into the enjoyed category. Like, it was fine. If I were to rate both of them, I would probably rate them like a 3.5. Like, yeah, they were fine. They were good. Um, and that's that. Okay, I'm back. The lighting is so different. Someone called me. I had to go. But now I'm back to talk about the next book that I read, which is The Will of the Many by James Islington, which I believe is how you pronounce it. This book changed my life. Oh my god, I've never stopped talking about this book since I read it, and I read it like over 6 months ago. Um, Basically, this book is a fantasy, but it's like a historical fantasy, dark academia mystery vibe. And essentially, what the story is there is this society, and it's called like there's like a government called the hierarchy. It's like the Catan Republic. And how the hierarchy works is that like everyone who is within the hierarchy, like it's pyramids, like there's levels. The people at the bottom obviously make up the most people in society, and then it goes up to the people at the very top. And the people at the bottom have something where everyone has will in this society. And will is like physical strength, it's like mind power, it's like focus and the things that make you yourself. And how it works is the people in the bottom of the pyramid like cede half their will to the people in like the layer above them, and they do it to the layer above them and above them, and to like the people at the very top are like super powerful because they have the will of like all these people and the people like in the bottom of the pyramid that are like working for them. And so the people at the bottom are like almost like they don't have they don't have a lot of will at all, so they're kind of just like roaming around, and they can only do like the work that they are forced to do. They don't have like the ability to just like do the things that they want because they like half their energy's literally gone, versus the people at the top like basically have like superpowers, like they can do different things with their will. And the main character of the book is someone named Viz Telemus, and he at the start of the book, he's like an orphan, um, and he gets adopted. And the person who adopts him is someone who's at like the very top of the pyramid, or near the very top. And he sends him to this school, um, this academy for like all of the sons and daughters of the people at the top of the pyramid, who are like the people who rule the world in this society. And the reason why he's sent to this school is because there was a murder, and he's trying to uncover secrets, and it's super dangerous. And that's kind of what he's sent there to do. Um, but the kicker is that the society where you like seed will or whatever, the main character like does not want to be a part of it. Like everyone is forced to like give up their will and be a part of this society, and he wants nothing to do with it. His family, he's from this small island called Seuss, and that was violently overtaken. He was a prince, and he was violently overtaken by the hierarchy, and his entire family was killed, but he escaped, and everyone thinks he's dead. And that then he becomes this orphan, and he's just like personally like I don't want to be part of the system. So he's hiding his true identity, and he's going to this academy, and he's trying to uncover secrets, and there's different people who want different things from him. He's trying to keep things secret, he's trying to rebel, and also he's making friends for the first time and maybe falling in love. And this is a story that is equally about like rebelling from the system and like also this like dystopian universe, and it's also about friendship and about love, and it was so beautiful and so engaging, and just so interesting. And it's one of those things where it's like this is kind of a long book, but I don't think I will let the length of a book really scare me again after reading something as amazing as this. I cried, I laughed, I was so rooting for him. He was such an interesting character. He had so many interesting morals, and everything felt so earned. Like it wasn't just he's so smart and he's just going to get away with everything. Like he is training and he is fighting, and he nothing not everything ends up perfectly for him, but he's not going to give up. And I just absolutely loved it. Um I was a couple years late to this book. It came out in 2023, but I'm really glad that I read it when I did because um the second book in the series came out in November of 2025. So I like didn't have to wait as long as I would have had to wait to read the next book in the series. But yeah, this book was incredible, and obviously it's going into the I'll never shut the fuck up about this book until I die. The next book I read was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I listened to this book on audio, which is how I listen to a lot of my books. And that was a really good decision with this book because there's like a podcast element. Essentially, there's this woman who, like, her life, her job is she makes this podcast where she like interviews different women who've done astonishing things and done incredible things, and talks to them about like how they accomplished some like these things. And she meets this woman who becomes like is obsessed with her, and she tells her that, hey, I haven't done something incredible, but I'm going to do something incredible. I'm going to leave my husband, and he's doing all these terrible things, and I there's all these secrets, and I want to talk to you about it and find the bravery to escape my situation. And at first she's like a little bit unsure, but then she's like, okay, yeah, this is going to be my next story. Like I'll start the podcast. And slowly this book, um it's like a mystery thriller. You see how their lives get more and more interconnected, and you don't know who to believe. And this is one of those books where some things are kind of left out in the open and you're not sure like who the crazy one is, almost like it's hard to tell the truth in the end. And I think that if that's something that you like in like a mystery or thriller where maybe not all of the answers are crystal clear, and a book that's not exactly like you're solving the puzzle from the start from the beginning, but something that just like gets more eerie as the story progresses and it unravels. I think you would really enjoy this book. And I did like it. I think that I would put it in the enjoyed category. I think it's not the typical type of mystery I like to read, but I'm still really glad I read it. I wouldn't say this is like equal to None Shall Sleep and Some Shall Break. Definitely better. Like I would rate this like a 4 star, maybe 3.75. But it was really good and I really loved it. The next book I have on my tier list is The Woman by Christian Hannah. Wow. Okay. I literally dreamed about starting this channel just so I could talk about this book and how much I hate it. Oh my God. When I read this book, I read this when I was like working full time over the summer. I finished it like in the middle of the day, thought about it for the rest of the day, just angrily ranting in my head, just thinking like I was just so many things about this book were so bizarre, and I'm gonna get into it in a second. But I would drive home, like my 40-minute commute, 40, 50 minutes, talking out loud about all my problems with this book. Literally, I did this for days, for maybe a full week. I forced my friends to read it just so I could have someone else to talk to about how strangely weird and bad this book was. And this book is like the most popular book of 2025. 5, I think is when it came out. Why? Why is it so like gets 5 stars from everyone? My boss loves this book. She recommended it to me. Oh my god, like literally 5 stars everywhere I looked on booktube. And then I was like, I can't. Like I need to look up people who hate this book. And finally I read some reviews or like watched some reviews of people talking about why this book was bad and I was like, thank you. Thank you. There are I genuinely could talk about for 50 minutes about why this book pissed me off. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to limit it as much as I can. So for now, I'm gonna move this into actually this made me mad, and we're gonna dig into why this book made me mad. So, first of all, I want to preface this by saying that I actually have read from Christian Hannah before. I read The Nightingale, which I'm sure some of you have also read. It's like if this is her most popular book, The Nightingale is her second popular, most popular, or the other way around, whatever you want to say. And she typically writes historical fiction, I believe. And this novel just like this book is about a girl named Frankie who goes to serve in the Vietnam War as a nurse and then comes back and is kind of shocked by what America is like after she returns. So, about half this book, I want to say 40% of this book takes place in Vietnam, and the other 60% is when she comes back. And kind of like the theme is, like women can be heroes too. That's the point. And now that I've gotten that out of the way, time to talk about why this is literally the worst book I've ever read. So, first of all, if you've ever read The Nightingale, um, I will admit that that book is better than this one. But there is a certain plot point, which I'm not going to spoil if you've never read it before, that makes you truly wonder, like, why that was included in the book. And that made is how I felt about this entire book. Like, why was this a book? I just am in shock at the concept of like white women and their audacity to feel like the hero of every fucking story that exists. And it just pisses me off. Like there's so many reasons why this book was so bad, and we're gonna go one by one. And this is gonna include spoilers a little bit. So if you don't want spoilers, skip forward. There's gonna be a time I need to get this off my chest. I've been waiting 6 months to get this off my chest, truly. So we need to get into it. First of all, the pacing of this story was atrocious. Like, this book is very long. And, like, yes, the beginning portion is like her in Vietnam. And then when she comes back, like, all these things are happening. It's also exploring like her and her PTSD and like moving on. And then it just drags on for so long. And the last like 20% of the book is insane. Like just things happening back to back to back. Like I swear, drama just for the sake of drama. Insane things happening. Um, like people keep coming back from the dead. Her love interests keep coming back from the dead. Every single person, I think, that has died comes back from the dead, except for the one person that could have made the book interesting. Everyone comes back. And I'm like, why? It makes me not believe that any of the people who should be dead are dead. And like this girl like goes back on her word so many times, like I just can't. Moving on. So the pacing is bad in this book. Number two, the self-awareness in this novel, I'm just not sure if it's there. Like this girl is essentially like a super rich family. Her dad, all the men in her family are like war heroes. Okay, that's kind of what motivates her to go to Vietnam. She Her dad's office has like a portrait of every single person in their family that is a man that went and served in war and came back, or maybe they died in war, whatever, but they like honored their country, they honored their family. And the story begins with her brother going to fight in Vietnam, and her brother dies. Like this happens like the first chapter, so sorry. And that helps spur her and just like this wall of heroes. Like she just wants to be a hero so bad. So she decides that she's going to go to Vietnam, even though like her parents are like, girl, what the fuck do you mean you're going to Vietnam? Like they don't like it. Guess why? And obviously it's because she's a woman, but like They don't want her to go to Vietnam. And she doesn't care. And she makes the decision to go to Vietnam in like a day. And she's like trying to find someone who will send her to Vietnam. Like she tries to go to the Navy and they won't let her and they try to go to blah, blah, blah. And so she goes through the army, I think. And instead of like any training, because she's literally not a nurse, she's not a trained nurse. She knows nothing. And they're like, we'll send you in 2 weeks. And then she makes this decision. And she's like, hey, like, I'm leaving. I'm going to Vietnam. And her parents like, what the fuck? And then she just goes. And obviously, she's super naive. And when she gets there, she's like, this is crazy. Like, people are dying, like, blah, blah, blah. And she, like, has to, it gets thrown in the deep end, like, has to, like, learn how to be a nurse. And it's, like, kind of her calling. And, like, she sees all these, like, violent things and, saves all these people's lives. And it's, like, traumatizing to her. But it's also, like, her purpose. And then she meets people and like falls in love, and she's like so obsessed with like her virginity and not being a cheater because all these men have wives at home. And whatever, she comes back, I'm just like recapping the book now. And she comes back and literally she's like at the airport, and people, she sees people protesting Vietnam. She's like, what's going on? Why are they calling us baby killers? Like, I don't understand. And like, people are like protesting the Vietnam War because it's the Vietnam fucking war, and the US is literally insane and sending the military off to just kill people, and no one is winning anything, and people are just dying. And she's just so stuck up about this idea of like, I need to be honored. Like, they need to respect me because I'm a woman and I fought, and like, I deserve this. Like, you need to be like, she's a hero, she's a hero. Even though I was just a nurse, like, I'm a woman and I'm a hero. And like, no one is like acknowledging that she's a hero because, girl, you went to the Vietnam War. Like, you are no hero. Like, hello? Like, maybe this is just me personally being like anti military, which, why would I be like that? But like, I feel like the Vietnam War is like historically like very well known to be like a bad war that the US fought in. And the US was not on the right side. And I feel like there were so many moments where she could have had this like little bit of self-awareness of like, oh, maybe they're not happy that I fought in the war because it was Vietnam. But she does not, literally, she like does not accept this. She's just like, it's because I'm a woman. It's because I'm a woman, girl. And it's because I'm a nurse. Like, they're not respecting me. I'm a nurse, but I still fought. Just because you're a nurse doesn't mean that you were a good person. Like, fighting for this side of the war. Like, are you crazy? Like, there's so many moments where like you could have had this like little bit of nuance, but no. No nuance. Like, I'm really struggling to like feel like there was intention there. Like, she was supposed to be like naive, and like you're supposed to realize that like she's kind of delusional. Like, I literally, like, she does not have this like realization at all. And I feel like this book was also pitched as like, she comes back after the war and then is like, oh, we need to take our troops back home. Like, she's like part of this like movement, and she's really not. Like, this character is like irredeemable of how irritating she is. Like, it's her friends. It's her friends that are dragging her to these like protests, and like she's trying to get like PTSD help, and she's like, I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran. And they're like, girl, you were a nurse. Like, you were not in the army. Like, girl, shut up. You're a girl. Like, you're a girl, so this can't be true. And she's like, no, but please, like, and then she's like losing her mind and doing all these awful things. And just so many things about this book are so unrealistic and so insane and so bizarre. And anyway, she's just not a good person, and I literally hate her guts. She's just not a good character to read from. And I know that not every book needs to be from like a good character, but I can't. Seriously, no nuance and no self-awareness about, you know, you know, like, there's no more depth to this story. Um yeah, like, I'm sorry. I think that maybe if you were in like third grade and you've never really understood the concept of like women can do anything, then maybe this book would say something new for you. But if you're an adult or like anyone above the age of like 10 years old, like, that message that is literally like, I don't even know, like, punches you across the face this entire book. Like, what else are you getting from this? Like, women are resilient? Girl, shut up. Honestly, like, I wish that this book was about the women, like, more than one, this girl, annoying ass girl, like, more about her friends who were actually interesting characters. Oh my god, just so mad. And adding on to like her friends, the black representation in this story is atrocious. And I didn't when I was reading, how do I say this? When I was looking at different reviews is when I really started to realize like how atrocious this is. But like for example, there's like one of her like best friends is like a black character, and when they're being introduced to each other in Vietnam, it's like she has this white friend and this black friend, and when she's looking at their like bunks, the white friend has like all of these different like posters from like her family, and like she's like, oh, so this is the type of girl she is. She's like looking at their pictures, and then above the black girl's wall is like a picture of Malcolm X, and like that's all, and like other stuff like similar like vein, and it's just like the representation is so bizarre and just so and and like the people who die in this book are like exclusively black people, like especially in like Vietnam, the portion where they're in Vietnam, it's like all black people that are dying. And if I'm gonna try and see if I can find the videos that like talk about this more in depth, because I certainly don't remember all the details because I read those like 6 months ago, but I will link it in the description box below so that you can have a better understanding of like why the representation was so kind of disgusting and just wrong. Like it should have been done better. And I really wish that these characters were like more fleshed out than like I don't know the stereotypes that they were kind of boiled to. Pisses me off. Yes, this pipeline of her being a nurse makes no sense. I think that the historical fiction part of this book is also really bad. Like, if you didn't know anything about the Vietnam War, I'm not sure that this story would explain the context of what's going on well to you at all. Um, there's a creator who's from Canada. She's super popular on BookTube, and I'm just forgetting her name right now, but I'll put her up here. In her video, she talks about how like just historic, like it's not a good historical fiction as like historical fiction. Um, and I just can't. Like I just think there's zero nuance, and I'm so tired of this war hero narrative. Like even though you're a nurse and not like actively killing people, I guess I still think that it's wrong to be on like this side of history, um and just trying to get all this like glory and representation from like being a war hero. It's just not for me. I just don't care. I don't believe in the military. I don't think that they're doing good things, and especially we're not doing good things in Vietnam. So the fact that like the entire point of this book is because she wants like that recognition of like, hey, I was a woman and I fought in Vietnam and I did a good job was just annoying. And I, yeah, there were so many other things about this book too that like really made me mad. Like my friend who's a history major was talking about like her relationship with like sex and like how that affected the book and how it was unrealistic. And I wish I could go more into detail about it, but like I'm not the history major, she is. So the details of our conversation had left me. But yeah, this book was so bad, and I'm actually just flabbergasted that people enjoyed it. Um, I will not be reading another Christian Hannah, and that's all. It was so long. It was too long. Yeah, I just need to leave it at that because if I could go on, I could go on, and that was already over 10 minutes long. I can see it. So we need to move on. The next book I read was the latest Rick Riordan novel, which was the newest Percy Jackson series, um, The Wrath of the Triple Goddess. Um, and I grew up reading Percy Jackson. I mean, I loved the books. This series is just like very nostalgic. It's Percy, Grover, and Annabeth as Percy goes on this journey to get like letters of rec from the gods so he can go to college. And it's just fun. Like it's like a middle grade book. So it's not like I'm rating this super harshly because it is obviously just like it's not my reading level anymore. It was just like fun and enjoyable. And I don't really have much to say on it other than I loved it, and I'm just such a fan of Percy, and he and Annabeth are so in love. It actually like they love each other. And it's just so beautiful. And it was just like a really easy read. I think I finished it in like a couple hours and it was just lovely. I'll never stop reading those books. Yeah, that's all I want to say about that. So it's going into the well, yes category. The next book I read was Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry, and this is a romantasy. So this book follows this princess named Odessa, and there was essentially this treaty, think, if I'm remembering correctly, that her father signed or something, and she grew up her whole life as kind of this like she has an older sister that was like trained to be kind of like more assassiny, and the treaty basically says that like one of his daughters is supposed to like go to this other kingdom, maybe if I'm remembering right, and like be betrothed. And so everyone expects like the older sister who has been like this is like her moment. She's been training for it to be the one that they like take. And lo and behold, it's her, the younger sister, Odessa. And she's not prepared for this. No one is prepared for this. But she is forced to go. And so she's not really this like spy. But she's like being forced to be like she is going there and she's trying to fulfill something from her father, and also just trying to be like wishing she had agency in her own life. And it's like a slow burn, um kind of enemies to lovers, um where she kind of comes into herself. And there are certain I honestly don't remember this book that well, but I remember I enjoyed it. And I think it was maybe slow at the start. But by the end, like there was a couple twists and turns that I wasn't expecting that I thought were really interesting. I'm definitely going to read the second book when it comes out. But yeah, I'm gonna put this in the well yes category because I would recommend this if you like romantasy. The next book that I read was First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. And this story is like a mystery thriller about this girl named Evie Porter. And she's like a con artist. And she has like a boss named Mr. Smith. And he kind of tells her what to do and who to become. And she does all these things um, to be a con artist and try to get information or whatever it is. And then she moves on and she has a new identity, blah, blah, blah. And so the story starts with her and she has this like perfect life with this boyfriend. And it's kind of, just about her being a con artist. And, um, things are kind of unraveling with this like newest job that she is on. I really enjoyed this. If you just like a fun thriller mystery where you can kind of just like root for the main character and like sit back for the ride, and it's just like kind of fun and exciting, and you just like want to know how it will all turn out. So it's going into well, yes. The next book I read is Funny Story by Emily Henry. And I've read a few Emily Henrys before in the past when I used to read a lot more romance. But I haven't really been picking her up much lately just because um, I think pure romances don't interest me that much these days. But one of my favorite YouTubers, Uncarly, she was talking about how this is her favorite her favorite Emily Henry book, and how it's like genuinely a funny um romance. And I think I was just in the mood for something like that. So I read it and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny, like it was sweet. Obviously, there's like things about this book, any romance that like are, I don't know, a little bit predictable. But I feel like you don't read a romance to be blown away by the plot always. You read it for it to be written well and to swoon and to be like, this is super cute and wish it happened to you. So I will put this into the well yes category because I really recommend this. And I haven't read like every Emily Henry, but of the ones I've read, this is the one that I think is the best. Um, so yeah, I recommend this. If you haven't somehow read this Emily Henry and you're a romance reader, put this on the top of your list because you will enjoy it. The next book that I read was As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder like in middle school, like when it first came out. Yes, I was ahead of the trends for this book. I read the first book and then the second book came out at some point and I read the second book. And for some reason I didn't read the third book when the third book came out. Because I think I liked the second book just a little bit less than I liked the first book. And I was like, I don't know if like I can read the third book Like I think I was getting a little tired of the story or like how it goes. Um, but my friend, um, who also likes to read mysteries, was like, "How have you not read the third book? Like, you absolutely have to finish the series. Like, it's so good." And I was gagged. I was like, "Okay, like you sold me. I believe you. Let me read it." So I got this book, and this book was insane. And it was genuinely like such an interesting and perfect book. Like it was unexpected for me from this series. Um, if you have not somehow read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder or like even watched the TV show on Netflix, which is great, um, it's about this girl, Pip, I think, and she for her like senior year project, she tries to solve a murder kind of. She starts this podcast and she's like uncovering these secrets cuz there was this couple that died years ago and everyone thinks that the boyfriend in this couple like murdered the girlfriend and it has like haunted this town. It haunts their family, the boyfriend's family, and um she thinks that something else happened. So it's kind of the first book is about her like kind of uncovering the truth and the danger that comes with. And then the second book, um she's like still making her podcast. And this book, um she's definitely very affected by these things that have happened to her. Like she's a teenager still. She's trying to grow up and decide if continuing a podcast. Excuse me. She's trying to decide if like continuing this podcast is like the right decision to her for her. Kind of. I'm honestly kind of forgetting like the initial start of this plot, but basically, it very much builds off the first two books, and I don't know, it just took a direction I didn't expect. There was only like one part of this book, like some like an attitude she had, that portion of this book that really I'm like, girl, please, like please. And obviously like she's a teenager. I'm not expecting her to make all the right choices. But I'm like the kind of person that just like wants her happy ending and I want everything to work out. Like I don't read books to be sad. Um and I'm choosing to just ignore a portion of this story. But the rest of it was perfect. And I think if you have read it, you know what I'm talking about. Um but if you have not read the third book in this series, what are you doing? Go read the third book. It's great. I really recommend it. And for that reason, it's going in the well, yes. Actually had me on the edge of my seat for half the book. I was truly gagged. Next, I have Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead. And I'm just going to go through all of the Finley Donovans back to back because I read the first book. Finley Donovan is killing it. I don't know, I want to say like 3 years ago. And I like annotated it for a friend and I was having a good time. And it's a very lighthearted mystery, comedy mystery, comfy mystery series. If you've never heard of it before, basically it's Finley Donovan is this mom and she's an author and she just went through a divorce and um she is meeting with her agent in a Panera and she's talking about the plot of her latest like mystery novel. And because of this conversation, someone is like overhearing them and they think that she's like a hit woman and then she's like actually kills people. And they are like, kill this person for me and I'll give you all this money. And she's like, girl, what? I'm a mom, like this is not me, hello. And that's kind of how the first book kind of unfolds. Just like it's like one of those like suspend your disbelief like kind of hilarious stories. And she has like a nanny for her kids that also lives with them, that's like also a main character in the story. She's like her sidekick. And um it's just like a very fun like series. And so I read um the second through the fourth book kind of just back to back. I was like just ready to just eat them all up, you know what I'm saying? And I enjoyed them. I wish I could say that I could differentiate which ones were better than the others, but I can't because it was a long time ago and I'm not trying to read the descriptions of every book to say that. I don't think it would be that interesting for me to rank them differently anyway. So I'm going to put them all in the well, yes category because I just like the series and I really want to finish it. I'm the next book hasn't come out yet, I think, but I will be reading it when it does. And I don't know, I just like these characters. So great series if you haven't read it already. If you like mystery and you just want a little laugh. The next book I read was As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Kato, and this is a historical YA historical fiction, and it's set in during the Syrian Revolution, and it follows this main character Salama, who is a pharmacy student who's like 18 years old. She's very young, but has been forced to grow up super fast because of the revolution. Her she's living with her brother's wife, who is her best friend growing up, and her brother's wife is pregnant. And the start of the story kind of establishes how their family members have either died or are in captivity, and they probably aren't going to see them in the future. And even though she never finished her studies, she's working, volunteering as a nurse. Um, in a hospital just to save lives because it's all she can do and that she kind of feels like it's her purpose. And she's also really scared about like trying to flee Syria because it's her home, but it's getting more and more dangerous for her, especially for her best friend who's getting more and more pregnant, and she wants to make sure that like that baby who is her family can have the chance to survive and have a life. Um, but yeah, it's this story about love and resilience and hope and grief, and this is like if the women was actually good. Like that's how I can describe this book. Um I actually have to compare it just because they were so similar in like kind of what the character is trying to do. Like both of these main characters are nurses who aren't technically formally trained as nurses but just doing their best with what they can. Like nursing is kind of, or just like helping heal people is like kind of their passion, and that's what they're doing even though it's really dangerous. But this story actually has like grit and meaning and nuance, and it's just so beautiful. It's so sad, and it's also, yeah, it's a story about love. She meets this boy and they're both so young and they're just trying to navigate like what it means to be like in this revolution and you know really fighting to survive. um I think if you liked the woman, you need to read this book because this book did it, just it just did it better if you're like trying to read that story of like being a nurse and surviving. um it was beautiful. There were so many things about this book that like really shocked me, and I just really think you should read it. And shout out to my friend, you know who you are, who recommended this book to me. I absolutely love getting book recommendations from my friends. And so this is going to go into the well yes category, like definitely like a 4.5 star for me. The next book that I read was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. And I feel like I don't have to explain this world to you because it's the Hunger Games. Girl, it's the newest installment of the Hunger Games. And it is following Haymitch and his um games. And I think it's the 50th, if I believe. Every 25 years, the rules are a little bit different. So the rules in this novel are that they're gonna pull like double the pool of um kids that are being sent to fight in these like death war death wars. And yeah, I mean, if you liked the Hunger Games, you have to read this book. I'm so excited for the movie. I mean, it was just like sad and it was beautiful and it was really good. And I know some people like don't like this book, but I just think that if you like the Hunger Games, you're gonna like it. Like it's just great, and it made me feel a lot of things. And Suzanne Collins maybe can do no wrong. I Yeah, that's all I can say. I'm so excited for the movie. And because of that, it's going in the well yes category. The next book I read is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. And this is like a light fantasy about this caseworker. His name is Linus Baker. And in this world, there are people who have magical powers. Um, and the people who do have magical powers are kind of like outcast in the society, like very much discriminated against. And they have these orphanages. No one's really adopting them, but orphanages for magical children, and they get sent there. And sorry, these orphanages for magical children. And he, as a caseworker, his whole job is to go to these orphanages and make sure that the kids are being taken care of well and not being like mistreated. And it's like this dystopian vibe where he is just like a worker and that's all he does, and he like follows the rules and doesn't really consider if this entire system is wrong. Like he just does his job. It's his job and he's going to follow the rules and that's what he's going to do. And he's sent to this remote island um with this special group of magical children because they have the most dangerous and most secretive uh danger level and secrecy level kids because they're just a little bit extra magically special. And he goes to this island to live with these kids and the caretaker whose name is Arthur um, on this island for like a month. And the story is just about him falling in love and loving these kids and realizing that the way that things are being done right now in this world is like not correct. But it's very like the tone is so optimistic. And I just this book was so beautiful. And I wish I could explain to you, like, I was reading this book on when I was driving down to California, which is where I go to school. And I remember waking up in this hotel in the hotel room, and my parents are like doing whatever they are, and I'm like reading the final chapters of this book and I'm just sobbing. And they're like, "Girl, what's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I can't." Like this book, like I wasn't crying because it was sad. I was crying because it was so beautiful and so filled with love. And I wish I could express how much I recommend this book to just everyone. It's just such a beautiful story. And I think that the existence of representation of like gay men in their like 50s, 60s who are, or maybe it's 40s. Sorry, I don't remember how old they are, but like older men. And it's just like very like a very pure light-hearted romance. It's just I feel like I don't read it a lot. I don't see it a lot. So I really appreciate just like the representation in the story, the lesson he was trying to tell. It's just very sweet. And it's one of those books where like I feel like a lot of books that have this undertone message of like, discrimination is bad, and the bureaucracy, like things deserve to be questioned, like why are we doing things this way, and change is possible. Like it's just so it's just told in a way that is in a tone that I feel like I don't see often. And I really think that everyone needs to read this book. Genuinely everyone. Anyone can enjoy it, and it'll make them laugh, it'll make them cry. These kids are so beautiful and such interesting characters. And I mean, I just loved it. So for that reason, it's going in. I'll never shut the fuck up about this book until the day I die. Easy 5-star. The next book I read is the second book in the series, which is Somewhere Beyond the Sea. And I think if you read the first book, like it doesn't really leave off on a cliffhanger. Like it can very much be read as just a standalone, the first book. But the second book follows the same characters. There's just like a little bit more added to the story because of the way the first book ended. Um, which you can kind of expect, like, they're challenging the way that society is set up right now in the first book. Um, I for some reason this book took me a long time to get through. I think it was just because the school year was starting and I got super busy. Um, but I felt like it was just like a little bit like long for me. Like I really it's really just for people who enjoy, in my opinion, the characters from the first novel and want to read them again instead of being from Linus Baker's perspective. It's uh Arthur's perspective, so like the caretaker who was on the island. Um, and it was just like a fun way to, get back into the world and hear more about what is going on. I really don't think that I don't really recommend this the same way I recommend the first book. But it was still good. It was still beautiful, and I still enjoyed it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's any plans for a third book unless I'm wrong, which I could be. But I don't know if I would read like a third book. Like I think I'm happy with how where I am with this series. And yeah, I mean he was good. And so it's going into the well, yes. The next book I read was The Strength of the Few by James Islington. Girl, what I tell you, I was highly anticipating this book. And the day it came out, I went and I bought the book. And it was like $40. Um, and the reason why this is shocking is because I am a firm believer. Well, I'm born and raised. I will wait for the library copy type of girl. I don't like to use my money on buying books that I might not like or I won't reread and will just sit there, and I can't have clutter. I move too much as a person in college. So this meant I needed to read it immediately. I needed to be reading it. And this book was literally insane. I'm not gonna go into it again because it's the second book in the Hierarchy series, so it follows the ending of The Will of the Many, um, which I've already explained. And if I try to explain more, it will be spoilers. But this book was narrated, the plot, in a way that I have never ever read in a book before. And it was just so ambitious and crazy. And there's so much of this book that I was like just so confused, but also things that I was like so invested in. Um, there was shocking moments, there was payoff in different ways. It was sad, it was so interesting, and I left the book like with more questions than answers. And I'm upset because the third book hasn't even been finished. Right, the author hasn't even finished writing it, I think. So it's gonna be definitely a few more years until I get to read the third book in the series, but that's fine. I think I didn't enjoy it as much as The Will of the Many. It took me a long time to read this book. It's also a fat book. um but yeah, it's going in well, yes, because I'm just like obsessed with this series, and I just need to know. I need to know what happens. The next book I read is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. And if you don't know what this book is about, it's a nonfiction book on like the history of tuberculosis and how it actually has this influence in so much of our like history and how it shaped different parts of the world. But also it's mostly about just the ways in which this disease persists today, even though it should not. It's completely curable. We have the modern technology to not let anyone else die from it, and yet it's still like the world's deadliest infection. And it's a lot about like you know, the rights to access medicine and who is in charge of deciding whether something is worth the cost of, providing this health aid to people. And it's written in a way that's very accessible. It's so interesting. And I mean, I love John Green. I also love Hank Green. I'm obsessed with both of them. So, yeah, if you haven't ever read anything from either of them before, um, or like John Green specifically. I mean, I feel like everyone read this book this year, but it's a great nonfiction, and you should read it if you want to get more into nonfiction. I just think that you'll learn a lot, and you'll also feel a lot too, um, of emotion about the right to healthcare. And so it's going in the well, yes category. The last books I read in 2025 are Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch by Christian Ciccarelli. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but this is a romantasy duology. And I read it on recommendation from one of my friends. And it follows Rune, who is this socialite, and she is like secretly a witch. And witches in this world are persecuted, they're being hunted down, and she is what is known as the Crimson Moth, and she like tries to find witches before like soldiers can kill them essentially and try to like help them escape the island. And she is kind of in this enemies to lovers situation with this man, Gideon Sharp. Gideon Sharp is a witch hunter and like the head of the witch hunters, kind of. Um, and they have like opposite agendas, and they're meeting each other as their socialite identities, and then also she's meeting him. I'm making this sound like miraculous. Okay, pause. um, but yeah, so she has a secret identity and he doesn't know. And they both have stuff that they want, but they out of the situation, obviously. Um, and yeah, it's a romantasy. Some parts of this book are very obviously like gonna be corny and going to be a little bit predictable, but it's also just fun and enjoyable if you're like a romantasy reader. So yeah, I think the first book is better than the second book, but I'm really glad that I read them like back to back. I think it helps like keep the momentum. I thought it was interesting. There was parts of it that were definitely super cute. And yeah, if you're like a romantasy reader, I recommend. And for that reason, I would say Heartless Hunter is going and enjoyed, and so is Rebel Witch. But yeah, this wraps up my books read in 2025 by me. I really hope that I can read more books this year, post more videos on this channel. I have a lot of ideas, and I just think that this will be fun. That's all. This book was this this video was already so long for me to film, and I am scared to edit it. But thank you so much for watching. Please tune in to my next video. I promise it'll be shorter. Bye.